Good morning. I'm Caroline Woods, live from the New York Stock Exchange. We're about to embark on the first trading day of 2023. Happy New Year. In another milestone, the U.S. Armed Forces celebrates its first ever joint enlistment ceremony here at the NYSE. We'll have lots more coverage, but first, let's join our historic boardroom on the 6th floor here at the New York Stock Exchange, where we're getting underway. I'll be right back with more. But stay tuned, because you'll see everything that's going on at the New York Stock Exchange boardroom floor. And of course, I'm perched above the trading floor right now, and we're getting ready for the first trading day of the year and the quarter to kick off. Lots more to consider. So take a look at the boardroom.
And Happy New Year, everybody. The first opening bell of 2023. How does everybody feel? My name is Josh King. I am head of corporate affairs of the New York Stock Exchange and head of communications of its parent company, ICE. And on behalf of Lynn Martin, our president, and Sharon Bowen, our chair, and our entire team at the NYSE, welcome to future soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, Coast Guardsmen, and Guardians to our first ever joint enlistment ceremony on the floor of the NYSE. General Gary Brito, Steve Castleton, the civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army, Major General Falk, Captain Tipton, Commander Salerno, Captain Tompkinson, Colonel Lloyd. This is a very special day, a proud day. In a few minutes, we are going to proceed down to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange for you all to take the oath of enlistment live on NBC before the eyes of the entire world to serve your country. So, to our future men and women of our armed forces and to their parents here today, thank you and congratulations. I read the bios of all the officers here today, saw your tours of duty, your decades of service. In effect, though, you are teachers. And for your terms of enlistment, those who are joining the military today, in addition to being warriors, you are also going to be students. So if you don't mind just taking a minute before we head down to the floor at about 9 o'clock, just a brief history lesson. This exchange began 231 years ago in May 1792, essentially a vehicle to help this then very new nation pay off the debt that it incurred in war in an efficient, orderly basis. To help the colonies pay off the debt that they incurred throwing off the yoke of British rule. We had our first president, George Washington, who had led the Continental Army in that war, who was sworn in and inaugurated just a few hundred feet from here, next door at Federal Hall. And you'd think that after that inauguration on April 30th, 1789, you would say, and the rest is history of this country. But in fact, it barely even got going when General Washington took command of the Army. 247 years ago, in January 1776, General Washington wrote, "Few people know the predicament we are in. Search the volumes of history, though, and I much question whether a case similar to ours is to be found, to have one army disbanded and another one to raise, within the same distance of a reinforced enemy. It is too much to attempt what may be the final issue of the last maneuver. Time will only tell." The Continental Army, which had formed by the Continental Congress and Washington was appointed to lead, was facing dire circumstances. 6 months into the war, the Army, which had grown quickly through patriotic fervor after Lexington and Concord, had exceeded about 22,000 soldiers. But they had a problem. Those 22,000 soldiers signed up and their enlistment ended on January 1st, 1776. Entire regiments were heading home thinking that their service had been done. Now, the revolution almost ended before it began, not because of defeat on the battlefield, but because of the personnel challenges of maintaining the First National Army. Well, 247 years later, General Brito and his staff, their civilian leaders, are working every day to bridge the new challenges of the 21st century. What happens in this building is testament to those challenges. Think about where we've been since 2009. A booming economy, technology companies. If you want to work in cyber, if you want to work in drones, you don't necessarily enlist in the Army, you go to United Parcel Service, ticker symbol UPS. So the alternatives aren't what they used to be in 1776, farming, blacksmithing. They're going to work in tech. And that creates a tremendous challenge for raising our military and defending this country. We had the chairman of the Joint Chiefs here in November, along with the Secretary of the Navy, Carlos del Toro. And yeah, the pacing threat of China and rolling back the threat by Russia in Ukraine is top of mind. But their equal duty, as Secretary del Toro told me, was three things. Readiness, modernization, and capacity. So much of that means changing the way we recruit and train and, yes, retain the soldiers we're enlisting today and will enlist tomorrow. And as I was talking to several of the recruiting leaders here, every day of the year. Writing the Wall Street Journal in October, Secretary del Toro was joined by Army Secretary Christine Walmuth and Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall. They wrote an op-ed, and I'm just going to quote the title of the op-ed, "Uncle Sam Wants You for a Military Job That Matters." And its subheadline is, "We need data scientists, coders, and engineers as much as we need pilots, submariners, and infantry." And they added, "If you seek a life of purpose and passion, if you hope to invest your talents in a cause bigger than yourself, if you want to belong to a community of people who also choose to serve, you can find that connection and more in the armed forces." Here at ICE, we like to say, we always like to make the connection. And we are proud today to help General Brito and his team find that connection and welcome you to the exciting world that lies ahead as you take the oath of office. General Brito.
Thank you, Mr. King, and Mrs. Lynn Martin, the president of the Stock Exchange as well. And more importantly, I would like to thank all of the distinguished leaders, Mr. Castleton and others mentioned in their opening remarks, and all of those in uniform, regardless of the service today, that you stand and represent your country, and thank you so much. Sir, thank you for your unparalleled support, your great remarks, and the support that the military has gotten today and will have in the future as well. I've been serving in the Army for a long time, and my team has heard this before, but I simply enjoy, as you will, serving in uniform and serving our country. And for the young recruits, regardless of the service that you entered today, I commend you for one choosing to serve, whether going to be on active duty, National Guard, or Reserve. And I commend you for wanting to be something bigger than yourselves and part of a big team and taking full advantage of all the opportunities that service in the military has to offer. Whether you should do just a short enlistment or a career of 20 or more, again, I commend you for that, and I salute you as well. And most importantly, for the parents, the brothers, the sisters, the uncles, the coaches, and all of those that sat at the kitchen table with your future recruit, thank you, most importantly, for your support. So for supporting their desire to serve, supporting the desire to wear the uniform of our nation's country, of our nation, and again, whether serving for 2 years, 5 years, or 6 years, thank you for allowing them to give them an opportunity to defend this great country of which we all enjoy. And I commend you for that as well. And for all of our future recruits, I had an opportunity to walk around and speak to a few of you this morning. And as you well know, you represent many opportunities that the military offers, whether from joining as an infantry soldier, which some will be doing, a physical therapist, or a human intelligence specialist. You're doing it all. And you will contribute to the work ethic and the discipline and the patriotism, everything that's going to work well in the United States military and in the country as well. So I am looking forward to the opportunity to have you raise your right hand in just a few moments from now on this very special occasion, ringing the bell at the beginning of 2023. I could not think of a better opportunity to bring in this 2023. I'm looking forward to sharing that opportunity with you. Thank you so much, and sir, thank you.
So General Brito, we just have a few great traditions here at the New York Stock Exchange. One of them, for those who are ringing our bell, is a medallion. The front of the medallion is our facade, and our 6 pillars behind it is the buttonwood tree underneath which the New York Stock Exchange was founded on May 17th, 1792, to do the work that I spoke about. Our inscription is General Gary Brito, Commanding General, United States Training and Doctrine Command, Opening Bell Ceremony, Armed Forces Enlisting Ceremony, January 3rd, 2023.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And to Steve Castleton, who organized this and brings his incredible passion and energy to you as well, sir. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Now, in 3 minutes, we're going to walk out the door. As those of you who are about to join the armed forces will realize, over the coming years of your enlistment, you will at many times receive a lot of challenge coins as you move from posting to posting and meet great people along the road. We want to start that career off with a challenge coin of your very own from the New York Stock Exchange, a very small version of what I just gave to General Brito and Mr. Castleton. The one side, the facade, the back side, the buttonwood tree. In this small black envelope, it will be passing them out on the door as you leave. So with about a minute left, the only instruction is that those with the blue stripe on their badge will be joining Steve and General Brito and me as we move quickly out the door and down the elevators to the floor. And
welcome back to this live broadcast from the New York Stock Exchange here on NYSE TV. We were just listening in from the boardroom here at the Exchange in Lower Manhattan, where our executive, Josh King, he's head of corporate affairs here at the NYSE, just gave some remarks on this special day. It's the first trading day of 2023. And again, the NYSE is welcoming our first ever U.S. Armed Forces joint enlistment ceremony, about to happen soon on our iconic trading floor. So we just heard Josh King talk about he gave us a brief history lesson of the NYSE and its nearly 231-year history dating all the way back to George Washington. He offered some insights about the impressive bios of some of the officers here today. Really, they're teachers, students, and also warriors, and talked about how the armed forces are really going to kind of bridge the gap, the hiring challenges that they're going through as they face big tech. We also saw General Brito get his buttonwood tree medallion. Exciting times here ahead of the opening bell. So we have all 6 branches of the U.S. military here today. We have the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, and the recently formed U.S. Space Force. And we're going to see, of course, the opening bell. But first, we'll get to witness the special performance of the Star-Spangled Banner performed below me on the trading floor. We'll see, we're seeing Lynn Martin and Josh King actually lead. I see Steve there, General Brito there, leading them to the floor of the stock exchange. So they're about to ring the opening bell at 9:30. Ahead of that, we'll of course get the Star-Spangled Banner, which will be very exciting. You know, one of the fascinating things about the NYSE, of course, it's rich in history. We talked about that, 231 years in May. But it's the largest stock exchange in the world. The technology here is unmatched, and it helps businesses really get access to capital with that unmatched technology. But there's also human capital here. We have people here on the floor of the stock exchange that really make all of the difference. I report here daily on the news, and I work alongside those traders and the direct market makers, the DMMs, and they're really kind of the heartbeat of American opportunity, raising capital to improve businesses and lives. And with that intersecting with the armed forces here today, some really esteemed officials, some to enlist, it makes for a really, really incredible opportunity that I'm very excited about. So in just a few moments, we'll head down to the floor of the stock exchange to see the distinguished attendees. Again, we'll be welcomed by a standing ovation. I promise you there'll be lots of clapping. We'll hear the Star-Spangled Banner. Then we'll hear that sung by Staff Sergeant Meg Browning, and we'll get to witness the oath taken by the U.S. forces. And of course, we'll be ringing that opening bell at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That will really kick off the trading day. It's the first trading day of 2023. Of course, we're kicking off the first quarter. I think we're all pretty happy to be turning a page on 2022, and at least in terms of where the markets are. So as the guests make their way down to the floor, I'm going to do the same, and I'll see you down there in just a little bit. Like I said, there's going to be lots of clapping. There's going to be the Star-Spangled Banner. We'll see that those right hands raised as some enlistees, I believe 30, will take the oath to join our armed forces. And I'm going to talk to a few people on the floor as well, really to just get a sense of what it means to be here on the historic trading floor, but also to be a part of this special ceremony and to be a part of the first trading day of 2023. Futures right now are pointing to a higher open, so we could be seeing some green arrows when trading kicks off in a little bit less than 30 minutes right now. So we could be starting the new year off in the green based on what we're seeing right now. So let's let the guests make their way down to the floor and get ready for, as I said, some clapping and the Star-Spangled Banner, and I'll see you down on the floor in just a minute.
what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Gentlemen, do we have everybody? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of providing you the oath of enlistment this morning. Up front, I thank you for your opportunity, giving us the opportunity to have you serve in uniform. And if you would, please raise your right hand and slowly repeat after me. I state your full name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to the regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome back. I'm live on the trading floor now. We just saw General Brito sign the Distinguished Guest Book behind me. Above that is the opening bell that will be rung in about, it looks like about 17 minutes from now, right at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll be kicking off the first trading day of 2023, the first day of the quarter. We're turning a fresh page after a pretty turbulent year for the markets that saw double-digit declines for the S&P 500. We're bringing some of those headwinds that we saw from 2022 into 2023. We still have a Fed that's aggressively hiking rates. We have inflationary pressures. We have geopolitical concerns, COVID lockdowns in China. So we have our fair share of headwinds. But the good news is the futures are pointing to a higher open this morning. So we could be kicking off the first trading day of the year with some green shoots, some signs of hope as we begin the trading day. So I'm surrounded by a lot of people here. We can see the enlistees who just raised their right hand and swore their oath. This is the first ever joint enlistment ceremony here at the NYSE. I have Steve Castleton here, who is going to be joining me just to kind of talk about the significance of this event. Steve, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having us. This is great. It's the first time in the 230 plus year history of the exchange that not just an enlistment ceremony was done on the floor, but actually done in the building. Over 30 members have just enlisted to defend their country. What's better than that?
And you also have some pretty impressive scholarship figures. We were talking just a bit ago, $540,000, I believe, in scholarships. Is that right?
Yep. We're going to be talking to some kids and announcing some surprise scholarships later on today, where the military, for signing up and joining the reserves in the Army, they're getting their college education paid for. I mean, what's better than that? I have 3 children combined 49 years in, so I know what it's like for a parent not to have to worry about student loans and debts. And think about it, it's not just for the family now, but it's for the future enlistees' children. They don't have to worry about the debt their parents going to incur. What's better than that?
As someone who had student loans, I certainly understand the pain of those. But talk to me just a bit more about, Josh King was talking about kind of bridging the hiring gap that we're experiencing, because now the armed forces are really up against not jobs like he mentioned from 1776, like blacksmithing and farming, but you're up against big tech. So what are you doing to really kind of encourage people to go the route of the armed forces?
Well, a lot of it is reaching out to high schools and colleges, letting guidance counselors know about the jobs. For instance, in the medical field alone, there's 63 different jobs in the Army alone. You want to join cyber. My middle son is in Warren 3 in cyber. My oldest son is a chaplain's assistant. My daughter-in-law is in the Army Corps of Engineers. So you could be an engineer, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be whatever you want to be in the military, because those positions exist. And again, look at it this way. You join the reserves. Yes, you have an 8-year commitment, but would you rather an 8-year commitment or 30 or 40 years of student loans? To me, it's a win-win.
Yes, and we certainly appreciate all of those who are enlisting for the country, really our military heroes. Steve, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So Diana, I see you over here. I want to get you in really quickly. You just raised your right hand and enlisted, right? Tell me a bit about your story.
You see, my story is really complicated, because the thing about me is I went to the scholarship not to serve for my country, but also following along the fact of my family's background. So I am fortunate enough to be the only one in my family to live in the United States to have this opportunity. So I took advantage of it, and including the fact not having my mom here because she lives in Texas. So I have my dad with me here. So I really took the opportunity to make them feel more relieved and everything.
And what's it like to be on the floor of the stock exchange? Is this your first time here?
Yes, it is. I'm amazed. I can't believe this is real. I thought this was fake. So I'm incredibly in shock.
And just tell us quickly what your plan is from now.
My plan really, I don't even know. Everything is happening so quickly, so I just really have to think about it to make sure I take advantage of what's coming through my way. Right. So.
Well, Diana, best of luck to you. Thank you for your service in advance. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the day. All right, I have General Falk, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Talk to us about the significance of this joint enlistment ceremony. Certainly an exciting time. Lots of clapping. Feels very patriotic with the Star-Spangled Banner. Fill us in on your thoughts.
Oh, it was just tremendous. I mean, it's always awesome to watch young people start an adventure, the adventure of life, and to do so in the military. You know, in the Army Reserve, for example, you can serve your community and your nation part-time, and you'll get lots of job training, lots of experience, and that's great for your resume. So at the same time as you're serving, you get to also reap some benefits as well. So I joined 39 years ago, so be all you can be is very real for me.
39 years. Wow. Thank you so much for your service. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
So I'm the commander of the 99th Readiness Division in the Army Reserve. We have responsibility for readiness for the Army Reserve's 13-state region in the Northeast. That's 45,000 Army Reserve soldiers who stand ready to answer the nation's call.
And what's it like being on the floor of the stock exchange, getting ready to hear the opening bell ring, kicking off the first trading day of the new year?
Well, it's truly a bucket list item. I mean, I grew up in banking on my civilian job, you know, and so this is definitely bucket list, the only way I can describe it.
So in terms of what's kind of next for some of these enlistees, what can they expect? There's 30 that just raised their right hand, swearing the oath. As we said, it's a joint enlistment. But what kind of just set the stage for us about what's next for them?
Well, all the services have a basic training and then individual job skill where they learn their specialty. And that's usually the same for all the services. So whether you're active, guard, or reserve, you're going to get the same skills training and get onboarded to your service. And then you'll join your unit and participate in unit training, whether it's full-time in active duty or part-time in the Army Reserve or reserve component, right? So that's what they can expect. It's definitely an adventure. And so, you know, excited for all of them to begin their journey.
What's the recruiting process like now? Because we've talked about kind of some of the hiring challenges just because you're up against, you know, a lot of the big tech firms that seem to be in competition with everyone. So how have you seen kind of the recruiting process evolve?
Well, I'm not in recruiting. Well, although everyone's a recruiter. But I would tell you, it's probably not unsimilar from when I joined. The recruiter sat down and asked me, so what do you want to do? Basically, what are your goals? And then the recruiter will, if he's listening closely, will match something that they have to what you want to do. And that's what happened for me, and that's what would happen for these folks. So it's all about what are you thinking about? And it could be a simple conversation or a simple question of, well, I don't know what's available, and they'll start throwing things at you until one sticks and you decide that's what you want to do.
All right, well, speaking of recruiting, we have a recruit to speak to next. So General Falk, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right, I'm going to bring in Emmanuel next. Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations. It's a very exciting day for you today.
Thank you. Yes, it is. It's a privilege to be here.
So Emmanuel, where are you from? Tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Well, I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, but as of now, I reside in New York, Bronx.
And you're going to be enlisting in what branch of the armed services?
The United States Marine Corps.
Okay, and tell us how you kind of came to that decision.
Well, as growing up as a child, I always wanted to be there and protect what I love. I just have people to protect, and they're just giving me the opportunity to do that.
And tell us a little bit more about what went into your decision-making process, why you chose that particular branch, and kind of what you hope to get out of this.
So one of my family members actually enlisted into the Marine Corps right now. So he kind of more motivated my decision to make it clear, crystal clear. And I hope to gain new experiences, new opportunities, hopefully for the near future for me.
And what are you most excited for?
Well, I'm most excited for the training. I really hope to get something out of it.
Do you know what the training is going to entail? Do you know what's ahead of you? I'm curious.
I don't know what is ahead of me, but I'm excited for it.
And when does that begin?
Hopefully January 23rd.
Okay, so what are you going to do in your final weeks before going into training?
Probably spend it with my family. I love my family. I like to spend time with them as much as I can with my little siblings. I adore them so much, so I'm probably going to be able to do that.
Do you know where you'll be stationed yet?
Not yet, but we'll see as future comes.
Well, best of luck. Also, just want to quickly ask you, is this your first time at the New York Stock Exchange? What's it like being on the trading floor right by the opening bell?
It's very exciting. Like I said, it's a privilege to be here, and it's my first time here. I'm at awe of this architecture and everything. It's so beautiful. It's very pleasing.
What you expected or more?
It's definitely more than what I expected.
Emmanuel, thank you so much. Best of luck to you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, Daniel, let's bring you in. Congratulations. Did you just enlist, or are you already part of the U.S. Army?
I just enlisted.
Okay, well, congratulations. Tell us about what that experience was like, raising your right hand, and about what's ahead for you.
It was very exciting. It was like a lot of it was unexpected, but it's going to be an adventure. I'm very excited.
So tell us where you're from. Give us a little bit about your backstory and how you decided to enlist in the Army.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. My backstory. Growing up, I always wanted to help people. My uncle was in the Army. That was a very. It was a.
Was he instrumental in you deciding to enlist?
Yes, very instrumental. Yes.
In Brooklyn, so you're home basically. Have you ever been to the New York Stock Exchange?
No.
So what's it like being on the floor here?
It's very exciting. Very exciting. It's very awesome. Yeah.
And what will you do in your final few weeks before actually then starting training?
Probably spend it with my family.
Well, best of luck to you. We really appreciate your service, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to bring in Josh King over here. Josh, you kind of gave us a brief history lesson of the almost 231-year history of the New York Stock Exchange, going all the way back to George Washington. Kind of discussed how we're seeing some hiring challenges for the armed services because, like everyone else, they're up against big tech. What do you make of today, this really kind of historic moment of the first ever joint enlistment ceremony?
Well, it's great, Caroline. We are just a couple years away from 2026, which will be the 250th anniversary of the United States, our whatever you call that moment. But really, it almost didn't happen because in 1776, the Army was really only 6 months old. It had just been formed after Lexington conquered. General Washington was put in charge of this group by the Continental Congress, and everyone was watching what the Minutemen did and said, I want to sign up too. Farmers put down their pitchforks and took up their muskets, and they signed up, they enlisted. But the term of that enlistment was 6 months. So if you think of like Lexington and Concord being in April 1775, and they signed up for 6 months, that term of enlistment ended on January 1st, 1776. And a huge part of the Army basically said, all right, I'm done, I can go home. Thanks, it's been great. I'm going to go back to being a farmer. And Washington had the British Army, which was encamped not far away in Boston, and he had this basically huge personnel problem about how to make the prospect of serving in the Continental Army that much more enticing. And you fast forward 246 years, that's the same challenge that we have today on January 3rd, watching these young men and women take the oath of enlistment. They're not doing it for an extra few dollars. They're doing it for college scholarships. They're doing it for enlistment bonuses. They're doing it for unparalleled training that if they give the United States military 2 years of their lives, or if they do it for 4 or 6 or 20 years, that they not only will they do what they need to do by serving in uniform, but the country in turn will make them cyber warriors, intelligence specialists, administrative experts, and send them to college afterwards. So it turns out to be a great deal. And what we're trying to do at the New York Stock Exchange is just help make that connection. And so to be able to have the first bell of the year devoted to bringing 30 new young men and women into the armed forces, we couldn't be more proud.
So you're telling me 246 years ago there was a labor shortage, and here we are. Everything old is new again, right?
We're trying to solve that problem, Caroline.
Well, and we know that there's some of the most heavily recruited there. They're some of the prime workforce after, serving in the armed forces. So very impressive. So just also want to ask you, obviously the first trading day of the year, we went through quite a bit in 2022. It was volatile. It was rough. S&P down double digits. There's hope for the new year. Futures are pointing higher, but we still have a lot of headwinds ahead of us.
Yeah, there hasn't been a year like 2022 since 2008. And those of us who lived through that, and I was one of them, would not willingly want to repeat that. And really since 2009, we've had this incredible run-up. And those people who were patient and invested their money in 2008, 2009 have been richly rewarded. And so what you're going to see over the next few months is whether it's individuals making their own investment for their nest eggs, or venture capitalists deciding to invest in new companies, or those new companies getting ready to test the market as an IPO if valuations are where they need to be, then we have to think that 2023 is going to look upward, because I'm not sure we could have a year like 2022 again.
We certainly hope we can't. We hope that maybe the worst is behind us, although, I don't know, I talk to strategists every day who say maybe we need to go back and retest those lows, maybe we need to break through them. But for the long-term investor, I think that, if you take a look at the charts, there's certainly hope. We have less than a minute before the opening bell. Any final thoughts just as we head into the bell?
You just look up at that podium with General Brito and NYSE President Lynn Martin and those enlistees and everyone else who's here, and their moms and dads and cousins and aunts and uncles. I mean, it's just a great day.
I know, it certainly is. And for someone who works down here every day, it never gets old. The excitement is always here. The NYSE really just, it can't be beat.
Indeed. And we've got another 300 trading days behind us, so it's all uphill from here.
All right, less than 10 seconds for the bell, so let's listen in. The opening bell is just about to ring to kick off the first trading day of the year. And there you have it. The bell has rung. We've kicked off the first trading day of the year. There were chants of USA from the crowd. It's certainly exciting. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to General Brito, to Steve Castleton, Lynn Martin up on the podium, Josh King, the 30 enlistees who are about to begin what's sure to be their a new lifelong adventure. And thank you again so much for watching. Happy New Year, and we'll see you soon.